Boy, this is a humbling lineup to follow. I texted Sean and Karen a couple weeks ago when I saw the agenda. I said, okay, you got me going after lunch and right after Karen. I mean, that just doesn't seem fair, you know. And Kareem, is Kareem still here? Dude, you are an amazing presenter. I mean, amazing. I won't be as good as either one of those, but in respect to Karen's material, I do hope I won't waste your time, okay? So let's just jump right into it. What I would like to talk to you about is the importance of doing a CRM checkup, okay? All of you have a CRM, correct? Does anybody not have a CRM in their store? I mean, so you have to have a CRM. You don't have to have my CRM, okay? But you have to have a CRM. What you don't have to do is use it very well, okay? And so I hope that what I'm going to talk about today is not about VIN solutions, okay? And would apply to any CRM, all right? And that's my intention, right? Of course, we'd be happy to sell you a CRM, but I'm passionate about CRM utilization, and that applies to any CRM. So that's what I hope you'll take from this. And I don't know that there's anything that we're going to talk about that is going to be, oh my God, I didn't know that. I mean, a lot of this is things you already know, things you've heard before, things that you probably believe in, you know, but you may not be doing in an everyday or in an effective manner, okay? So I hope that this will inspire you to maybe think about some things that when you go back to work, you can implement some new ideas, okay? So, CRM Checkup. And by the way, I'm Mark Vickery, and I've been at VIN Cox now for 13 years. I've been specifically at VIN for almost 9 years, and I also oversee performance management for X time too. So ask yourself, when's the last time you really looked at your CRM? You know, when we have dealers cancel, and some of them cancel, you know, why are you canceling? Well, I don't really like the VIN processes. The VIN processes, there's no such thing as a VIN process. Those are your processes. If you don't like the processes, let's change them. So when's the last time you really looked at it? You know, what we see a lot is people will sign up for our CRM, we'll implement it, and 5 years later, it's exactly the way it was 5 years ago, you know? And the person that did all the setups and built all the processes has been gone for 3.5 years, okay? And we're just doing the same stuff we were doing, or we thought we wanted to do 5 years ago. So when's the last time you really looked at it? And tell yourself this, you know, to me, a CRM is really two things, you know? It's a data warehouse. So it houses all of the data on all of your customers. So your customers are everybody that has bought a car from you, everybody that has serviced a car with you, everybody that's maybe one time considered the possibility of buying a car from you or servicing with you. It's every customer you've ever touched. That lives in the CRM, right? And then it's also a process engine. So I'm going to fire processes based on wherever my customer is in their relationship with me. They've sent in an internet lead, so they're considering buying a car, or they bought a car, or they came in and left without buying a car. I'm going to fire a different process for each of those activities, and that's going to be the case with all CRMs. Is that fair? So how you have that set up is what you're doing, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So has the industry changed recently? It's fair to say it has, isn't it? You know, I remember, I'm old enough to remember when we sold cars without an internet, okay? And I can remember when Auto by Tel first came around and you'd get the leads on your fax machine because we didn't have any computers in the dealership, right? So the fax would come in with a lead from Auto by Tel, and we'd give it to 5-Car Fred and tell him to call him, and nobody bought a car, and that's how we did it, right? Well, soon, thanks to people like Sean Bradley, we learned how to deal with internet leads, and CRMs kind of became a thing, right? That was a major change in our industry, don't you think? It demonstrated how the way people buy cars was totally different in, say, 2002 than it was in 1995, Well, I think we might be embarking on a similar change right now. Has your dealership changed? Have you added a franchise? Are you now part of a group? Are you, is anything different about your store or your company than it was the last time you took a deep dive into your CRM? And as you evolve, as your business changes, as the market changes, the CRM has to keep up with those changes. That's why we have to do regular checkups on the CRM. So what we're going to talk about today is how, and some of this stuff are VIN-specific things, but I think these are products that all CRMs have, right? So how are we meeting today's customers' expectations? Because those are evolving too, right? Are we personalizing our interactions? Can we use the CRM to boost the productivity of our staff? I mean, we've been dealing with shrinking margins in this business for a long time, okay? So being more efficient is critical to our ability to make money, okay? So can we use the CRM to boost productivity, right? How can we improve the in-store experience? That's changing. We're going to talk a lot about that here, okay? Just to sort of, I hope that this is what we can deliver to you today, all right? What should your CRM be doing for you, right? And I'm going to share some tips on how to maximize results. Does that sound okay? Shoppers' expectations are changing, and I think that's true. I mean, I'm a 55-year-old guy. Last year, and I haven't looked at, and I say last year, so 2 years ago, I made 186 purchases on Amazon. If anymore, like we'll be talking, my wife will say, we need new wine glasses, and I'll pick up my phone. She goes, do not order them on Amazon right now. So everything is changing about the way we, buy things, and that's true of cars too. So what I think is changing, and I know we've had some digital retail experts in here, and I don't know if they spoke, Sean, but Sean and I had a podcast visit a couple weeks ago, and he asked me, is digital retailing, is that really, are people really buying cars online, And I don't know. I mean, I think they're gonna, okay? What I think, to me, is important to think about digital retailing is I've got to be prepared to deliver the experience that each individual customer wants. I think gone are the days that we control the in-store experience. Gone are the days that the road to the sale is exactly these steps at this time, and by God, if you want to buy a car from me, this is how you're going to do it. I don't think we get to do that anymore, and it's never going back. I've got to be able to deliver the experience that the customer wants, how the customer wants it. And I think that is going to be hard for some of us. We do a lot of studies at Cox, and we did one last year, and we called it the Thrivers study. So let me explain the premise. So the idea was we asked the dealer to tell us, is your lot in life better now than it has been? I mean, are you thriving right now, right, in the middle of the pandemic? Or are you just kind of the same, or maybe even worse off than you were before, okay? And then we took the answers of those two people as they identified themselves as a thriver or static. And it was fascinating to me, these differences. So thrivers saw many long-term benefits in embracing digital selling. Thrivers saw migrating into that world was critical for their success at the dealership. And And they felt like it wasn't even all that hard to do. Whereas, the guys that weren't thriving really saw headwinds with all of those questions. And I find that interesting. So, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I've got some of this material I want to talk about later on. But your CRM, that is your customer experience, okay? And I think it's really important to think about that. I mean, what happens in your CRM, that's how you're showing up to your customer. Okay, that's the emails that they're getting, that's the phone calls that they're getting. It all is being driven, or at least should be being driven out of the CRM, right? So the long-term benefit of how you're going to use the CRM to market to your customer base, I've got to collect data, I've got to keep my data pure, I've got to constantly update customer records, I've got to make sure that all my technology is integrated, and those are all things that I think are pretty common sense. So the first kind of section here is how do we make everything relevant? I think that relevant to me is a word for personalization. I've got to personalize my interaction. During the roundtable earlier today, we were talking to somebody about response time, and I'll talk about response time in a minute. But here's what I think is really important. I've got to send personalized messages to my client. I mean, Sean talks about all the time. Do I have a lead that I've communicated with somebody, or I haven't communicated with them because I'm going to treat them differently, right? I've got to be personalized. I've got to drive my communication to the greatest degree possible in a unique, personalized way to each individual person. Okay, and consumers, they don't mind it. I mean, I don't mind it. I don't mind that if I search for something on the internet and the next time I log into Amazon, boom, I've got an ad for that thing, and I'm going to get that ad for a couple weeks. So it's just what we're used to, so we don't have to be afraid of sharing with the customer those things that we know. We have to train our people, okay, or they might come across creepy, but it's okay to use that information that we have on them, okay? And all the data suggests that when we don't deliver a personalized experience, then people change horses, They don't have to do business with you. I mean, just on the way here, I fly United, and I fly United almost every time I fly. I mean, it has to be so much cheaper and so much more convenient that I'd be a moron to not. Because I get treated better, right? Well, I got on the plane the other day, and I sat down, and the flight attendant came up to me and said, "Good morning, Mr. Vickery. It's good to see you. Would you like anything before we take off?" By name, big deal, right? Well, it's kind of a big deal. It made me feel good. You've got to have a relevant message, So we've developed a tool, an automotive marketing platform is what we call it. It's just a marketing platform. Pretty creative name. And what that tool does, it allows us to market to all the customers in the database one at a time. I don't have to, send an email out to everybody. I mean, we still have dealers, and I can tell you, we just had a pretty major holiday, a couple holidays, right? Thanksgiving week, we had millions of emails that our dealers sent out to their customer base that basically said, "Hey, we got some cars, and it'd be really cool if y'all came and bought one." that we can't do that anymore. Those days are over. I mean, it means nothing to the recipient to know that you'd like to sell them a car, okay? So I've got to send them messages that at least I'm trying to be relevant to them. Your warranty is expiring. I haven't seen you in the service shop for 6 months. I want to buy your car because it looks like you have equity in the car, right? I need to send messages that are relevant. And then, really important, is I've got to sell to customers the way they want to be sold. Well, how do you know? Well, first of all, you ask them, okay? I had a boss here at Cox. His name was John Griffin. He used to say, he was talking about you guys, of course, but he'd say, if you want to know what your customer is thinking, just ask him. He'll tell you. And it's the same thing true with our retail customers. Just ask them, what are they looking to achieve and how do they want to achieve it, right? But I can also do other things, and we're going to talk about this when we get into the in-store experience. But review the data in the CRM before you talk to them. I think that's really important. And that's one of the ways we're blowing it as an industry now, is we encourage the customer to interact with our website in special ways. They do, and then they show up at the dealership, and we don't seem to care about any of that stuff. We don't even know that they did it. That's a big fail. How's that make you feel, right? And I have to constantly review what's happening in the CRM so that I can, when I do interact with them, I can pick up where they left off, right? Could anything be more annoying than sending in a credit app and then 2 days later I come in and somebody shoves a credit app in my face? What do you mean? I already sent you that. How do you not know that, right? So I think that's really important. And now let's talk about response time. So response time is important. I'm not telling you it's not important, okay? We don't have all day, okay? But I'm not going to obsess about 3 minutes or 2 minutes or 5 minutes anymore, okay? It's the content that is more important. The old saying, read the lead. Well, yeah, read the lead. If they've asked a question, answer the question. If they need to know, if they've asked for something specific, give them what they've asked for. If I just bang out a 4-car quote and they've asked, can I trade in my Harley on this car? What are you telling me? You're telling me you don't care about what I asked. And oh, by the way, that's not how Amazon treats you. That's not how, Best Buy treats you. Nope. So why do we treat people that way, right? So these people expect us to know things about them before they set foot in the dealership. And if they've interacted with us prior, we do know something about them. We know where they live. We know what car they're trading in. We might know if they've appraised the car on KBB. There's things we know. We can talk about those things. Because in all these percentages, I don't know how accurate they are. I've got people that help, with these things, and they're from some study, okay? But is 76% the right number? I don't know. But what if we just said a lot or most? Would you agree with that? Is 7 hours the right number? I don't know. Can we agree that it's a lot? Can we agree that they didn't wake up on Tuesday and Tuesday afternoon pull into the lot and maybe buy a car? Yes. We have opportunities to use the CRM in ways to make us more productive, and that's really important. The best way to do that is to ensure that everything happens in the CRM. That, to me, is the first step. Again, in the roundtable section earlier today, somebody asked about where's the biggest area where people fail. It's allowing people to have customer activity that doesn't get put in the CRM. So if it's not in the CRM, it just didn't happen, okay? Now my CRM is VIN solution, so we say if it's not in VIN, it's a sin, okay? Your CRM may not rhyme with sin, so I'm sorry, you have to come up with a different term, okay? But it's gotta be in the CRM, or it didn't happen. And that should be a zero tolerance thing, okay? I've gotta hold people accountable. Earlier, I talked about we don't control the process anymore. We don't control the road to the sale. It's not exactly the way it was, okay? If they get to my store and I treat them like it's 1988, I got a problem, okay? So I really need to do a lot of training. It's not enough for the internet department or the BDC to be schooled up on how to deal with people coming in. If when they get to the store, I got some 25 car a month guy that's been here for 30 years and he's gonna treat everything exactly the same. So I've got to train them and make sure that they're engaging properly. So This QR code will take you to a guide where we're trying to help you understand how to communicate in the CRM. The problem we have in the CRM is the activity doesn't get done. It just doesn't get done. Tasks don't get done. We don't stay on process. Nobody holds anybody accountable. And, you know, it's not because they're lazy, you know. I mean, I used to have a talk I would do, and I would ask, why are there overdue tasks? And I mean, without fail, somebody would raise their hand and say, oh, they're lazy. No, they're not lazy. They've got a family to feed just like you do. They want to make money today too. It's because they don't maybe know what to do. And maybe we're firing activity for them that they know is a waste of time. Okay, so if we've trained them that you know, they've got to complete a bunch of birthday tasks or anniversary tasks, and they come into work and they see all these stupid calls they got to make that they know isn't going to make them any money, well, guess what? They're going to just shut down on the thing altogether. So a vast majority of the activity we ask our salespeople to do is not revenue generating activity. Well, if I'm selling cars, you know, why would I want to do anything that doesn't help me sell a car right now? I mean, I got family to feed right now, right? So we have ways that we can take, and by the way, I think birthday tasks and anniversary tasks are important, but I don't need a $100,000 a year guy to sit down and do that, do I? I mean, I've got technology that can do that for me. What other tasks do we have in our CRM that could be automated? You know, every time you remove one of those from the plate of your salespeople and or your BDC, you increase their productivity by a lot. Because guess what? Instead of doing that task that the computer can do for them, they can do something else. They can make another phone call to that fresh lead, you know, and try to establish contact. So, does anybody not have some kind of digital retailing product on their website? I mean, most of you have something that allows the customer to, you know, buy a car online. Is that fair? Mostly? Okay. So we're going to talk about what I think that means here in a minute. But here's something that we see with our tool, okay? The leads that come in from the digital retailing tool are 46% higher closing rate than normal website internet leads, okay? These cars that are selling, and they're not necessarily selling online, okay, but that's just where the lead came from, okay? We're more profitable with those people, especially on the back end, okay? And they close faster. And listen, this is all new enough still that I think we're drawing some conclusions as an industry. But in my brain, what that really means is it's harder to submit a digital retailing lead. I've got to do more stuff. So if I'm putting that effort in just submitting the lead, I'm probably a tiny bit closer to being serious about doing something, okay? So how I can train people to deal with those becomes, I think, even more important. And this is just more of the same talk, okay? I started off with, when's the last time you did a full-on checkup of your CRM, okay? So this is one of the things I think you need to check on, right? What tasks are being fired to what people? Right? And are they tasks that are more likely to lead to a sale, or are they not? And how can I make that more efficient? So we've already talked about this, you know, and in the interest of beating a dead horse, you know, the in-store experience is just not in our control anymore. And the sooner we understand that and come to grips with it, I think the better off we are, okay? And I've got to train my staff to understand that too, okay? So the first thing is with this is I've got to review what they've done online. And it's okay to do that in front of them, It's okay to say, hey, have you been on our website? Yes. Have you submitted anything through our website? Yes, I have. Well, let's go look at, I want to make sure we're on the same page, okay? I said, oh, here you are. The Monte Carlo that you're trading in, did you bring the Monte Carlo with you? Okay, great. Oh, I see we have your credit app. Review with them everything they've done. They'll appreciate that. They don't expect you to memorize everything, but show them, if nothing else, show them that the time and effort they put into that was worthwhile because you care enough about it to look at it, right? And congratulate them. They're going to be easier to sell a car to, and you're probably going to make more money off of them. So I would congratulate them for doing some work before they came in, because you're the one that's going to benefit as well as them. So technology is changing. And you've heard some people in the last couple of days about some cool pieces of technology that we now have access to, okay? But it all comes down to data, okay? We have tools at VIN. Automotive intelligence is one we call that understands shopping behavior on websites like AutoTrader and Dealer.com websites, or Cox Properties, of course. Kelley Blue Book is a Cox property. We can see where those people are shopping online and what they're shopping for. Okay, and if they're in the CRM, and if we have the email address in the CRM, because we not only collected it, but we keep it updated, then we've got an opportunity to fire off alerts to the store that says, hey, this dude is shopping, and is probably getting ready to buy a car pretty soon. They haven't told you that yet, okay, but they are, okay? Most dealers, and I'll bet you if I asked you, how good are you at collecting data? Most of you are probably going to tell me that you're pretty good at it. And I would say if you care enough about your business to come to a conference like this, that's probably true, okay? So even if I just accept that blind, we still see a huge number of dealers that while they're collecting the data, they don't just exactly really know how to use it. When I was back in retail over 13 years ago, and internet stuff was still relatively new back then, right? I had a service manager that told me that he was going to pay his advisors $1 for every email address. I said, wow, that's great. We didn't even have a CRM, okay? I go, that's great. What are you going to do with it? I don't know. I said, well, why don't we figure out what we're going to do with it before you throw $1 at everybody for every time they get an email address? So I've got to think about, how I'm going to use the data, right? But do I have technology that fires alerts to me when people are shopping? Do I get insight or notifications on customer sentiment? There are tools now, like our automotive intelligence, that can tell you about crappy interactions with your customer and your salespeople. Who goes up to their manager and says, hey, how's it going, Bill? Oh, not bad. I just really pissed off Mrs. Jones. Oh, really? That's too bad. No one says that, do they? But if Mrs. Jones sends a not so great response and shares some displeasure, tools can recognize that electronically and notify a manager, and now I got a chance to make a call and make something right. And this technology, and it's better now than it was a year ago. It'll be better a year from now than it is today. But it's amazingly accurate that the people that show signs that they're ready to buy are 15 times more likely to buy than anybody else in the database, right? So shouldn't those be the people that I talk to? Because the way to think about this, I think, is the days of waiting to get a lead from the website, I think, is over, okay? Over is wrong, okay? We're still gonna get leads, all right? But that's not the only way we can interact with customers, okay? We don't have to wait for them to tell us, we can identify that they're shopping, and we can learn and coach our staff on how to reach out to those people. I got good news, we're nearing the end here. okay? And I'd be happy to take a couple of questions. But when you go back and review your CRM, if you have a rep from that CRM company, sit down with that rep and go through and identify, do I feel like my CRM is allowing me to meet the modern customer and their expectation, okay? Is my staff trained on how to do that, right? Am I personalizing my interaction, or am I just banging out templates, every couple of days, right? Am I taking advantage of opportunities to boost productivity? Am I, in other words, getting rid of non-revenue generating tasks that even your salespeople recognize as a waste of time? And guess what that causes them to do? Not do the actual revenue generating tasks that'll help them sell cars, okay? And can I coach my staff to use the CRM to improve the in-store process, to review where we're at with them? What have we told them? What have they told us? And remember, I can do that in front of them. It's okay. And what a year, we've had. And I just saw an email this morning. Cox has an economist, his name's Jonathan Smoke, he's really, really smart. 10 predictions that he's making for 2022. Among them is inventory shortages are gonna continue for a while, okay? Electric vehicle purchases are gonna outpace regular, and not in numbers, but in growth. But also, the 2022 is likely to be another good year for dealers, our dealers, okay? And over the last couple of years with the COVID, look at how things have changed. My God, when COVID first became a thing, we were furloughing customers, our employees, and we were shutting down the showroom by appointment only and all kinds of different things, and now we've had this inventory shortage, and you guys have adapted, right? But don't lose track of the CRM. If you're out of cars, well, that doesn't allow you to quit using the CRM, to quit collecting data, because the market conditions are gonna change again, okay? And the guy that has done the best job of keeping his CRM current, of developing and implementing a CRM culture, and does save a deal out of the CRM and everything else, and holds people accountable to the activity, and keeps his data pure and up to date, that's the guy that'll win in the long run. Okay, here's another booklet, that you can download. It's kind of talks about the new rules of engagement, talks about how people might be shopping for cars now. And I don't know that I really went into that. What I want to say about digital retailing is I just have to be willing to sell a car to somebody digitally, okay? I'm probably not gonna do a whole lot of it here for a while, okay? But I've gotta be willing to do it. And my customer needs to know that I'm willing to do it. I shouldn't be talking them out of anything, right? I wanna understand what they wanna do and then try to give them that, okay? And what we're finding is they're starting off on the digital retailing tool and they're doing some stuff. Okay, they're submitting a credit app, okay? They're selecting a vehicle. They're looking at some payments, right? They're appraising their car, okay? But they still want to come in and look at it and buy it from you in person, right? So I've got to be just prepared to allow them to do whatever in the heck they want.
Do you like the content? Well, if you want more, then you need to sign up for Bradley On Demand, the world's best virtual training platform in the entire automotive industry. With some of the top speakers, salespeople, and trainers, and almost 7,000 training modules. You will sell more cars more often and more profitably. So sign up now at www.bradleyondemand.com.